Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the February 27th Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting. And first order of business is if you have pagers, cell phones, or other similar devices, if you would either turn them off or silence them now, we would appreciate it. Next, if you are not the applicant and you have come to talk to us about a case today, there are sheets like this on the table outside the chambers where you can sign up to address us on the case that you're interested in at the time that we hear it. And with that, Commissioners, we'll go to minutes for the February 13th meeting, and I cannot vote. I was not here.
Move approval of the minutes.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for the 13th of February. I've got to get it this way, right? Cast your votes, and those are approved. Next item is continuances. Aubrey?
Okay, there are 5 uncontested requests for continuance. Item B26, which is PUD 1515, deferred to March 13th. Item B27, which is SPUD 751, to March 13th. Item 28, PC 10364, also deferred to March 13th. B29, which is SPUD 752, to March 13th. And item B30, PUD 1517, has been withdrawn.
Is there anyone here today who came to talk to us about any of the items that were just read?
Move the uncontested request.
We have a motion and a second to approve the continuances. Cast your votes, and they're approved.
We also have 9 new requests for continuance. These would be items B7, which is C6575, deferred to March 27th. Item B9, which is PUD 1521, deferred to March 13th. Item B10, which is C6557, deferred to March 13th. Item B15, SP 465, deferred to April 10th. Item B19, C6573, deferred to April 10th. Item B21, C6576, deferred to April 10th. Item B22, C6565, deferred to March 13th. Item B23, C6554, deferred to March 27th. And item B24, C6577, deferred to March 13th.
Did you say item 15 is going to be deferred?
Yeah. You're Dr. Graham?
I'm Dr. Graham.
If you'd give us your name and address, please, for the record.
James Graham. I didn't hear whether or not you said item 15 is going to be referred
Item
to.
15 was read, yes.
For what date?
10th.
April 10th.
April 10th? Thank you.
Anyone else here to address us on any of the items that we just read? Give us your name and address, please.
Excuse me?
Give us your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Larry Grebb. My address is 4416 Western Heights Avenue, Oklahoma City. I'm here to address IVB 24 as an opposition.
When will that be heard?
That's scheduled for March 13th.
March 13th is when we will hear that case.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Troy Humphrey, 114 Northwest 6th Street. Did you mention item 14?
No.
Thank you.
Move the new request as read.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the additional continuances. Cast your votes, and that's approved. Are there any continuance requests from the public today? James? Hearing none, we'll go to the consent docket.
we have two items on the consent docket. Item 1 is ED 205 by Gary Owens Development to dedicate a street and utility easement west of Check Hall Road and south of Southwest 104th Street. The second item is CE 875 by Chesapeake Land Development Company to close a portion of North Walker Avenue south of the vacated Northwest 57th Street and a portion of Northwest 56th Street between Chartel and Lee Avenue.
No one signed up, Commissioners.
Move approval of the two items on the consent docket.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Cast your votes, and it's approved.
Items requiring a separate vote. The first one is item 3, DA 23991 by Brad Austin Builders for a lot split deed approval at 2912 through 2922 Southeast 89th Street.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Mark Ritchie. I'm with Civil Design and Survey of Oklahoma. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Brad Austin. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, this is a variance request. No one signed up.
I have one question.
I do too.
Good.
You go first.
What are you planning on doing with the lots?
The parcel as a whole has one building already built on it on the east part. The middle tract already has all but approved building permit for a second building, and then the third site will be a third building.
What type of business?
Brad, what? Retail. Just
Retail. Okay, thank you.
My concern is really about whether in doing this way, we're kind of depriving ourselves of a cohesive development plan for this piece of property. And, I guess I would just like to hear from the other commissioners about whether you share that concern.
That was a question I had, and I asked Mr. Ritchie before the meeting. It's my understanding the only land controlled by this owner is these three lots. Does not own the rest of this C3 tract. I was thinking it should be platted with only three lots.
Any other discussion, Commissioners? A motion?
Move approval of the application. I mean, the variance.
Variance.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the variance. Cast your votes. And item 3 is approved.
Thank you, Commissioner.
No, I don't think so. It's a variance. The application's a variance. No? Oh, okay, give me a motion for the application.
I move approval of the application. Second.
All right.
Item number 3.
Cast your votes. Item 3 is approved.
Item 4 is CE 874 by the Fountains at Hidden Creek to close portions of utility easements at 12901 Jasmine Lane.
Good afternoon, Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates, here representing the applicant. The applications 4 and 5 run together. We're vacating these common area and utility easements in this cottage community that we did because the size of these, the leftover smaller lots, there's no takers they want to build bigger houses. So by eliminating these easements and then the following replat, we'll eliminate a few of the lots, taking the two small lots, making one bigger lot out of them.
No one signed up.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 4. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
And the next item is related, PV 089 by the Fountains at Hidden Creek to vacate several lots, common areas, utility easements, and a portion of a private street right-of-way at the Hidden Creek Addition Section 5.
Again, this is the plat vacation that goes along with the other documents.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 5. Cast your votes. It's approved.
Item 6 is C6551, the final plat of Hidden Creek, Section 7, north of Northwest 122nd and east of MacArthur Boulevard.
We're calling this Section 7 because Section 6 has already been done north of this, so the replat is being called Section 7. The only variation on this tract to what you've been provided is on the top, lots 1 and 2 of Block 2 we want to make that just one lot, so there'll just be one lot in that block, and we'll make that revision before the plat comes before council.
No one signed up again.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 6. Cast your votes, and that's approved.
Thank you.
Item 7's been deferred. Item 8 is C-6579, final plat of Valencia Park, south of Northwest 192nd Street and east of May Avenue.
Good afternoon, Chris Anderson with SMC Consulting Engineers representing the developer. We've read the staff report and agree with the PEs and just request approval of this final plat.
Chris, I'm going to suggest that you process an administrative amendment. You've got conflicting language. You're doing single-family residential, and the PUD says you shall develop with paired villas. Probably want to get an amendment changed just to say may or something, so we don't have a clear conflict in language.
Administrative amendment, yes, sir.
And no one signed up?
Move approval with that stipulation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Approve item 8. Cast your votes. And that's approved, Chris.
Thank you.
Items 9 and 10 have been deferred. Item 11 is SPUD 749 by Oak Hills Private Equity Fund and the Oklahoma City Public School District to rezone 721 West Britton Road from R1 and C3 zoning districts to SPUD 749.
Good afternoon. Mike Mize, 2940 Northwest 160th Street. We're here today. We came before you 2 weeks ago, heard your request for some modifications to the SPUD. We've tried diligently to meet those, make those changes. We've actually eliminated the I-1 zoning. We've also provided some examples in your packet of possible metal building styles that we would use on that site to make sure that you understand that we're not going to put a star building up. I hope there's no one here from Star Buildings, but it's that's certainly not our intent. Architectural metal buildings are what we would do. We tried to demonstrate that without getting too specific, we understand there's a real need for landscaping around the property. The revised plan that we've provided, I think, demonstrates that, and staff recommends approval, so we're here to ask approval.
James?
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate the everything you've done to bring this more in a palatable, acceptable manner. But what I would like still is, and I think it's already in here, I still would like to see the plan or a plan of the final developments. I know it says we're going to have a site-specific plan. I'd like to have the site-specific plans, and when you get ready to develop exactly what you're going to do, I'd like it to come back to us so we can see.
We'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay.
We'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay.
Mike, there's another on the TE. It's engineering division, water, wastewater, utilities division requirements must be met. Have you met with those people? Because the TE says, depending upon what they say, what they do, you may be coming back here with some revisions.
We have not met with them, but if we'll do that in the next couple of days.
And I agree with James. The site plan, you come back in with that.
We understand the need for that. We'll be happy to bring it.
We'll add that to the.
Yes.
I had a question. In the examples that you've provided us, example number 2 of the loft has quite a lot of metal siding on it. And I was wondering, maybe it's more of a question to staff. I mean, does that comport with our requirements for exteriors on a development of this type?
In the C3 district, metal for exterior wall finish isn't permitted at all. So he's providing for that in his SPUD to show you the types of metal that he's contemplating, but we'll come back with a specific plan for each building, so you'll get a second chance to look at that.
Okay. And I'll just, for what it's worth, trim or as a design feature is one thing, but in this particular example, virtually the entire side of this building is metal, and I just don't think that that is appropriate. So, for what it's worth.
Well, and I understand, but we will bring back what we're going to do more specifically when we have that available.
Thank you.
If no other comments or anything, I move that we approve the application with stipulations for, bring it back so we can see the exact plans and the other comments that was made by the other commissioners.
So you want a TE that
Add a
will
TE.
get site plans with each building proposed?
Site plan and building plan so we can see what's going to be developed.
Okay, well, that's the second TE. Will you agree to that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 11 as amended. Cast your votes. That's approved.
Thanks.
Item 12 is a related item, CE 873 by Oak Hills Private Equity Fund to close the east-west alley in Block 17 at 701 West Britton Road.
Obviously, the related site, we've agreed to have no access or entry points from Northwest 94th Street on the north side. Closing the alley will be important to us so we can have access from the east and west directions. Ask for your approval.
Yeah, that was one of my comments in the previous application. The staff was recommending that they wanted, I believe, maybe I read it wrong maybe, but they were saying they wanted the alley to stay open for purposes, and then in this application it's for closing it. Clarify that.
Not necessarily that the alley itself stay open, but the configuration of the through traffic with an opening on each end, we liked that.
Okay.
But he's just going to basically change it from an alley to a utility easement. That way they can park across it, fence it, drive across it, and they won't have to improve it as if it were a city alley. They could improve it as if it were a parking lot.
Okay. That clears it up.
There will still be access. I mean, not necessarily public access, but for emergency vehicles or whatever, it'll still be used.
It won't be gated off. It'll be access for the folks who occupy those structures. It would be available for the fire department as well.
So it'd be more like an access drive opposed to an alley, possibly?
I'm sorry?
So it'd be more like an access drive opposed to an
Correct.
alley?
Correct.
Okay. I move approval of the application.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 12. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
Item 13 is SPUD 750 by Oak Hills Private Equity Fund to rezone 1432 Northeast 7th Street from R2 to SPUD 750.
Once again, we were here with this 2 weeks ago and have made some clarifications to the proposed SPUD. We've tried to once again, with respect to landscaping, we understand that the perimeter needs to be landscaped. We haven't provided specific landscape plans as part of this proposal, but we've demonstrated that we understand that landscaping will be required. We also are of the understanding and the agreement that the building currently known as Dunbar Elementary will remain, and we have every intention of obtaining historic tax credits to maintain the historic integrity of that structure to be used for senior housing. With respect to the remainder of the property, we haven't yet specifically determined how that will be used. We've proposed some very limited uses, which we have discussed with the neighborhood association and several other folks. We have also agreed with respect to the Dunbar site to bring back any structures that we propose to develop on the property. We would bring back to Planning Commission for your further review and ask your approval.
Again, my comments are the same, so we'll add a T that you'll bring them back. You've agreed to it, so.
Absolutely.
With that modification, I would like to move that we approve the application.
Second.
I'll add a
Okay.
T.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 13 as conditioned with an additional TE. Cast your votes. And that's approved.
Thank you, and I want to thank staff. Staff was very helpful. We appreciate that.
Item 14 is SPUD 734 by PBJ Entertainment to rezone 417, 419, 421 Northwest 23rd from the C4 Urban Design Overlay and TT Overlay Districts to SPUD 734.
Is the applicant here? The applicant doesn't appear to be here. As a little bit of history, commissioners and public, the applicant called a couple of hours ago and asked for a continuance and was told that if he wanted a continuance, he needed to be here at 1:30 to ask for it in person. He's not here.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see how many people came to this meeting to hear this application.
Well, just raise your hands.
Just
I know
raise your
who's all
hand.
here.
Yeah.
We understood that Catherine Montgomery was supposed to be here to represent the item. We may want to hold it for a little bit, see if she shows up.
What we will do is move this to the heel of the docket. We have a couple more cases to hear, and we'll see if they show up. If not, we'll decide whether to hear it or not.
Item 15 was deferred, so we're on item 16, which is PC 10365 by Jeff Coyle to rezone 700 Virginia Avenue from R1 to I2 zoning district.
Sir, members of the commission, my name is Ermin Gray. I'm with the NAI Sullivan Group. I'm representing Jeff Coyle, who's here along with me. We seek to have this rezoned to I2. When Mr. Coyle bought this property, it was 2 lots of 0.49 acres each. One of the lots had already been zoned, to our knowledge, to I2. The other one was still R1 for some odd reason. He owns all the property. He owns the property to the south, which is already I2. The properties to the east, which is the Central Liquor Distributors, and that is I2. The buildings down the way to the north, directly in the path of this lot and to the north, are I2 as well. We're seeking to rezone this 1.49 acres in between a lot that is I2 and a more than 7-acre site to the south of it, which is I2 to I2.
Discussion, commissioners? No one signed up.
The staff is recommending amending this to I-1.
Mr. Coyle wishes to kind of go back into history a little bit to show what was there. There was a dilapidated house there. And we have worked with the city and the owners, the family that owned that, and I worked with Danny Bumpus a considerable amount of time to see that we got that done. It was demoed out. The buyer of the property, we just sold the property back in the first part of the year. The buyers also had that all cleaned up. I have pictures of the work being done on that to kind of show you not only the zoning all around it, but the work that's been done, if you care to see that.
If you want to give it to Janice over here, we'll pass it around.
Mr. Chairman, that is a question, I guess, at this point for staff. When I looked at this application, I look at the solid I-2 to the north, to the west, to the south. I was wondering, why are we asking for I-1? And there's obviously a reason, but it's not set out in our staff report necessarily.
Yeah, this was a little bit difficult because we have to recognize that we are sandwiched in around by I-2 on all sides, but Virginia Drive is basically, the west half is a residential street. And when you think about all of the uses that can go in I-2 with outdoor work areas and outdoor storage, our thought was if the applicant could live with I-1, that would be a little better fit.
The applicant wishes to provide a nice-looking building there for a prospective tenant in the future that will abide by everything under I-2, such as we have up and down the street right now.
It does appear that the uses that are on the northern portions of the area there are all self-contained, they're all indoor. it looks almost to me as though they are I-1 uses.
There are some I-1 uses in every I-2 area. However, the difference is, if I may go back to this as far as the difference between I-1 and I-2 might be, that the size and volumes of raw materials, finished products should not be as great as that produced in uses in moderate and heavy industrial. This is an I-1. No manufacturing, assembly, repair, work, or activity or storage other than outside sales and display as permitted by this chapter shall take place outside the confines of the enclosed building. Many of those, they do have outside storage. And sometimes in I-2, even in the I-2 that's around there, there isn't a lot of noise, dirt, and other sorts of things going on. We really wanted this to coincide with the other things that are there. In I-2, the main difference is uses may require the assembly or other things outside, not to depend heavily on frequent personnel visits, or provision is also made for an outdoor operation and storage. This merely opens it up a little bit to, again, fall in line with everything else that is there and open the opportunities to bring in new business to Oklahoma City for somebody that might need that. This is adjacent to Mr. Coyle's property. I'm sure that he's going to make sure and take care of things that go on around there.
Question, on the map, in the application, the dotted line of the area proposed to be rezoned appears to go into, on the other side of Virginia Drive.
Well, that's a misnomer.
You're stopping at the street.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not taking off that?
Oh, no, it's stopping at the street. The street will remain there. The street dead ends into Mr. Coyle's property at the very south end of that already. It was a blighted house, and there were animals and other sorts of things in the area, mosquito-infested place, which was cleaned up, and I think everybody around that's why you have no one protesting that. He even went to the lengths to take down a large tree that one of the neighbors wanted to have taken down while he was cleaning up the area. So he's been a very, very positive part of the neighborhood, as it were.
What's sitting on Mr. Coyle's property at the end of the street there?
At the end of the street, he has some equipment sitting on the outside. He has, and I can let him talk for himself, of course, a garage area there for repairing his equipment. He is in the excavation business himself. Thus, you see the excavation work that's been done, things around that. He expects it to have it as a show place just like his, and I'm sure would invite you out to take a look at his place.
Okay. Well, I would assume that with that, the other types of industry that are on that street, that we're likely not to see a big difference in what kind of traffic is coming down the street and the impact it has. So I'm going to recommend approval of the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 16. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all very much.
Item 17 is SP 469 by the City of Oklahoma City Parks Department for a special permit to operate a park with sports fields at 3200 South Independence Avenue.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Larry Ogle from the Parks and Recreation Department. This is a request for a special permit. This property happens to be Woodson Park, which is one of the original 4 corner parks that were determined in the 1906 Park Master Plan, and we've owned the property since 1909. The property was split sometime later by the interstate, and this application takes care of the western half of the property, the part west of I-44. It was a project that was listed in the 2007 bond issue, GO bond issue to do. And so what it is, it's currently all athletic fields of different types right now. We're reconfiguring those athletic fields. And as I understand it, the need for the special permit is because we're moving the lighted athletic fields from one spot to another on the property. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be glad to answer.
No one's signed up.
I'll move for approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 17. Cast your votes, and that's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 18 is SP 468 by Dynamic Engineering for a special permit to operate an auto dealership mall in the C3 zoning district at 500 West Memorial.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kevin Giesecke here on behalf of Sequoia Realty, and Neil Stander here on behalf of Dynamic Engineering. I'm here basically to answer any questions you might have after Neil gets done presenting to the Commission. He will also be able to answer questions that you may have as well. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to him.
I have a question. Why isn't this a PUD? So that we know what the landscaping, lighting, signage, architectural design, et cetera. We know nothing, and this is on an appearance corridor.
It is, yes. The adjacent Reynolds Ford dealership was approved as a special permit. Two-thirds of the property is zoned industrial, which auto mall is a permitted use. Really, we're talking about a third of the property that we're just trying to bring into zoning compliance with the rest of the site.
Well, but you understand what I'm saying, though. I don't know what signs you're going to put up. I don't know what the building's going to look like. I don't know how it's configured. I don't know what any landscaping is. We don't know anything. And I prefer to see a PUD coming in, so you tell us what all those drawings, what's really going to be there, and what you intend to do.
Well, unfortunately, we don't know what the makes of the dealerships and the auto mall are going to be. It's kind of a chicken and egg scenario. Obviously, we have to have an approved zoning plan in order to get dealers to come in to occupy the auto mall. And I understand that you want to know what's going to be there before you approve it.
Yeah.
The best answer I can give you is that these are going to be modern auto dealerships. There are two adjacent dealerships, Reynolds Ford and Eskridge Lexus, they're very nice-looking dealerships, and these are going to be in competition with those. They're going to have to bring people in against those two dealerships. We are aware that it's in an appearance corridor. We're proposing to have stormwater features along the Turnpike frontage road to push parking and buildings farther away from the road. City staff made a recommendation for additional landscaping along that frontage, including trees every 25 feet. Before we applied for zoning...
Excuse me, but this is all what a PUD would tell us. Everything you're saying, if we approve the special permit, and that's I-2, is it the zoning I-1 or I-2?
I-2.
Then under I-2, you can do whatever you want to, competition or not.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't fit. Mm-hmm. Just straight, here's a permit to go do what you want to do. And I think that it would be a mistake for us not to see what it is you're going to do on this property.
When we were first contemplating the project and doing our due diligence, we came into city staff and said, this is what we want to do. They said there's three options of how to approach the project. Rezoning really wasn't an ideal scenario. They said you can go to a PUD or you can apply for a special permit. We thought the special permit was appropriate based on the fact that we're only talking about a third of the property that needs special approval.
Nick?
Mr. Chairman, you were not here last meeting, but we had a case last time for a great use, a Sam store, and we were wanting Sam to dress it up a little bit. The problem was, it's an old car dealership that many, many years ago was owned I-1. Sam says, I have the zoning. So, even if these guys make a nice car dealership, Bob, someday that car dealership's not going to be there. It's going to be out, in this case, I-2 land. It's going to be on the Turnpike. It is a site corridor.
Let him finish, and you'll have a turn.
I apologize.
So, and I made the comment 2 weeks ago that we would never zone that old Lynn Hickey site I-1 today. Even if they wanted a dealership there, we wouldn't zone it I-1. Ironically, 2 weeks later, here you go.
And part of this is already I-2.
It is I-2. Part of it's C3.
Right.
I understand that. I also understand that Mr. Reynolds is C3 land. at least part of it.
Right.
But that said, you don't need that heavy of zoning for a car dealership.
Okay, your turn.
I apologize
At the
for
microphone, please.
Sure, I apologize for that, Commissioner. To address that, we're not seeking to zone it as I-2 in that area. We're only seeking to get a special permit use for the specific use of automall dealerships, which is already contemplated in C3. We just need to get a special permit
But
for
the
that.
problem with that is the existing zoning is I-2. You are not wanting necessarily an I-2 use, okay? And what Commissioner Bright is asking you to do is put it in a PUD, downzone it. You can still get exactly what you want.
Sure.
But we'll know what it is. We'll be able to see it. And the next guy won't be able to come in, scrape it, and put a heavy I-2 use in.
I understand that, and perhaps I'm incorrect on my understanding of the zoning issue, but my understanding is no matter what, it's still going to be Zone C3. It will just have a special permit use to where we can put an automall on it, and only an automall.
The only thing that would be Zone C3 is what's C3 right now. The I-2 will not change.
Correct.
Based on what's in front of us.
The I-2, perhaps I'm misunderstanding what the commission is afraid of, or the fears are. I-2 is zoned to the east already, and so all we're trying to get a special permit for is this blocked-in area up here that's already been contemplated to only need a special permit with respect to C3. We're not asking for that blocked-in area to be zoned anything other than what it already is zoned as.
I know, and what we're suggesting is that you downzone it for the use that you intend, and do that in the form of a PUD, and that way the commissioners will see how you will landscape it, what your sign package is, and so forth. And I understand that car manufacturers have their building designs that are their prototypes. They have their sign designs, which are their prototype. But we would have a chance to see exactly what we would be getting, and particularly because we're on an appearance corridor, I and the other commissioners would be concerned, for example, we're going to get signs there. Right now, Eskridge and Reynolds don't have signs along the interstate or along the Kilpatrick. Their signage is on Memorial Road. Now, it's visible, but a PUD, for example, would make me comfortable that we weren't going to get that kind of a sign down at the back of the property instead of up at the entrance to it.
Sure.
The use is not a problem, and it's compatible with what's already there.
Okay.
I'm confident that quality-wise, if you didn't equal what Lexus and Reynolds have in terms of the quality of appearance and attraction of your dealerships, you wouldn't get the business that you're looking for.
Right.
So I'm comfortable that you would do that.
So, sorry, I guess is the concern of the commission simply that with the way that we're looking at it right now, the commission doesn't know exactly how it will look, and as a result, they want to have a more definitive plan before they decide to go ahead and approve.
And you can't do that with the zoning that's there now and assure us that we will get what you show us.
Okay.
A PUD provides for that. In other words, you could come and show us a beautiful rendering of something that Lexus has and say, we're going to do something just like that.
Right.
And come back and build a cinder block building because it's I-2.
Okay.
And that's what we are trying to guard against. It's an appearance corridor. We're concerned about the quality, the appearance of businesses, what things look like from the appearance corridors as people pass through the city.
Well, as Neil was talking about it, it is a bit of a chicken and egg scenario, and I guess could I suggest to the commission that we condition the approval of this on a final sort of approval of more detailed elevations and that sort of thing that would assuage any fears you may have?
We can't do that with I-2, as I understand it. Counselor?
And it also wouldn't help us to control the use of the property in the future. If we can make this any easier for you, I cannot support this application as it is. I think you're going to need to bring it back to us in a PUD. It doesn't have anything to do with casting aspersions on you or what you're intending to do or the quality of the development that you know, will put on the property now. But once it's done, it's done. And so in order for us to have that control into the future, it needs to be put into a PUD.
Okay. We need to go back and look at TE number 3. TE6 as well, just so you know what's in the staff report.
But it's, but Mr. Chairman, when I looked at it myself, along with the other commissioners, I said it's just not telling us. We know they might not know exactly what dealer, but we can put some definitive things. I don't know what kind of materials. It says it's going to have signs along Kilpatrick. We don't know what that's going to be like. And we've approved car dealerships before, and we've approved car dealerships with the specifics that car dealerships require. But with this, we don't know the materials. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know how it's going to lay out. And I can't support it in this condition either. So.
I'm Dr. Dar. Good afternoon. I am the owner of the land, and I owned it for 35 years.
Sir, I can't hear you. Can you?
I am Dr. Dar, who owns the land for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
This land currently is under due diligence period. Have been under that for 6 months. The buyer is one of the top 300 Fortune companies in the U.S. Now, downzoning the land, if they elected for some other reason or whatever, that they are not going to close the deal, I will lose my industrial zoning. So that presents hardship to me. So approving it, condition on submission of some documents that satisfy the commission, I think makes sense, and it facilitates the development and it facilitates the project. Otherwise, you're imposing hardship on me, give my industrial zoning away, and then they can come and say, sorry, for some reason we couldn't close. Where would I be left? I sat on it 35 years. And I think it's the best use for that property. It's 10 times better than me selling it in 5 acres lots to different 15 other users. You have a master plan, outstanding one, submitted to you for approval. I don't think you can match it anyplace. So I plead with you, approve it conditional. Whatever you want to put conditions. And I've been in this business 40 years.
Pardon?
So we can't do that?
Well, you don't. You can approve it with the following conditions, but you don't get the same control and master plan and every other aspect that you do with the PUD.
Well, and you don't.
He will promise you anything you want.
You won't have unified zoning. You won't have, you'll have the more intense zoning than is needed for a car dealership on part of it. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense why it can't be placed in.
The only thing,
3, 4, or 6 dealerships too. It's not. I mean, we've approved a dealership at a time, but I mean, this is a field of dealerships.
but it's the best use of the property.
Well, with the PUD, we would be assured it was.
Right, but my concern, like I stated, if the deal did not go through, then I'm losing my industrial use.
Well, that's our issue is land use here and not your closing date, unfortunately.
I want to make sure that I understand exactly what the issue is, because again, as I see it on this, on Commissioner Gale's point, seems to me like what the worry of the commission is if we don't do a PUD, we can go in and basically do whatever we want with it, because we're going to get a special permit for an auto mall or an auto dealership.
Once you get that special permit, you can still put an I-2 industrial use there tomorrow.
I guess I don't understand how we're going to do that if it's already zoned to C3. So,
Part of it's zoned C3, but a large part of it's zoned I-2.
right, but the zone, we're not here about that part of the property. We're here only about the part that's zoned to C3.
And you're showing us a layout for the entire property.
Correct, because we want to make sure that you all had the ability to see what the entire layout of the mall would look like. I guess
we don't know that we'll get what you're showing us.
Well,
I guess what do you think we're going to be able to put in?
Let me ask another
C3
question.
part.
Well, you're starting to argue with us now, and that's not.
I'm not trying to.
I mean, you can put in any industrial I-2 industrial use that's allowed by zoning today, and you can do it tomorrow whether you have a special permit or not.
Right.
That's not what.
And the doctor just told us that he's reluctant to put it in a PUD and lose his industrial zoning. Why? If you're selling the whole thing for an auto mall and you don't need I-2 zoning for that, why the reluctance?
Because I didn't sell it yet.
Well,
I didn't sell it yet.
Okay. I guess my only misunderstanding here, I think, is like you're saying, tomorrow we could go out and we could do whatever we wanted to do within the I-2 zone for the portion of the track to the east, correct? But we can't do that with respect to the part that's C3. That's why we're applying for the special permit. Are you asking us to give you a PUD for not only the C3 portion of the property,
yes,
but the I-2 portion of the property?
Yes.
So you want a PUD for
Yes, that's exactly what a PUD does. I mean, this argument can go on, but I'm not going to vote in favor of what your application is.
I understand that, and I appreciate the commission's time. I wanted to make sure I understood exactly what you needed us to do. So,
But we're not going to deny what it is you're going to want to do if you come in with a PUD that has all the elements that a PUD requires over what it is you want to put there. As you said, we do car dealerships, et cetera, but this is an appearance corridor. You need a special permit, and it should have been recommended at the outset that you come in with a PUD.
Excuse me, the PUD would be only for the C.
It'd be for the car dealership. For the car dealership itself. Whatever it is you're going to put there.
does it matter that there are only two dealerships, one on the I-2 side that's already zoned that to I-2, and one that's on the C3 side that will be within the appearance corridor?
I can't answer that. I don't know. We don't negotiate what it is you want to do. Because you come in with that drawing, and that drawing and what you want to lay out, that's why I said, what goes on there, and that's the PUD.
Okay.
And then tomorrow build on the industrial side and submit the application for PUD on the west side. The industrial side, you said he can do it tomorrow. And then he'll submit the PUD only for the west half, for the 18 acres on the west.
you can do that, and we'll decide whether we approve it or not. We're recommending that you do a PUD for the entire tract.
The other thing about that is if you did that, you would be limiting your special permit use to what's included in that PUD.
But the industrial is already granted.
Yeah.
But can you fit all 6 of your dealerships on the C3 property?
We can't hear you unless you're at the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just theorizing. If the industrial, they can do it tomorrow, and they elected to go ahead and do the industrial tomorrow and come back to the commissioners with the PUD on the balance 18 acres to the west. That's the one we're applying for today.
Well, I can make you a better deal than that. You can go develop the C3 part under C3 today, any C3 uses, as well as the industrial part in the industrial, without us involved. Just go get your permit. But what we're asking you to do is, if you want to sell this site for an auto mall, to unify the zoning in a PUD and tell us what you're going to do. That's all we're asking for.
Is there any way I can reverse it back to industrial if the deal did not close?
You can come back in
rezone it.
Rezone it.
Well, and we'll make it conditional. We're making the deal conditional. Thank you. So, okay. I appreciate your time, Commissioner.
So we're going to suggest that a motion be made to continue this so you can have time to do a PUD?
Okay, thank you.
30 days? How much time?
How many days, JJ?
It's on you.
Give me a date.
We need 30 days in advance of the hearing?
Can't hear you. 30? Okay.
I move we continue the application for 30 days. To give them
Put us
time
to our
develop a
second
PUD.
meeting in March.
Second meeting in March. Give them time to develop a PUD.
What is the date? March 27th.
March 27th would be that date.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to continue item 18 to March 27th. Cast your votes. That's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 19 was deferred. Item 20 is C-6578, the final plat of Castleberry Edition, located north of Northwest 192nd Street and east of May Avenue.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. Chris Anderson with SMC Engineering representing the developer. Read the staff report, approved the TEs, and request approval of the plat.
No one signed up, Commissioners.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 20. Cast your votes. That's approved.
Thank you.
Items 21 through 24 were continued. Item 25 is the proposed change to the Planning Commission policy for waivers to the traffic impact analyses requirements.
This was taken up last time for introduction, so this is the hearing to approve it. It's fine with me.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the traffic impact analysis amendment. Cast your votes. And that's approved. We're back to item 14. Is the applicant here?
Oh, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead.
In all honesty, I'm not sure how much difference it makes whether the applicant is here or not. I guess just as a policy matter, the question is whether, we should continue it because the applicant's not here. Seems to me this might be a little bit of a special circumstance since he was requesting that it be continued and was told that if he wanted it continued, he'd need to be here. Normally I think we probably would, although this matter's been continued a number of times. There's been an extraordinary effort, and I have to give staff some kudos at keeping those people who are most interested in the project informed as we've continued it so that they haven't, at least until today, been called down here unnecessarily to appear and then had it continued. But the truth of the matter is this application has a lot of problems. Well, actually, maybe just two. The biggest one and the one that's probably fatal to it is the parking. You're all very aware of the redevelopment and revitalization of 23rd Street, and it's going swimmingly. I have gotten so many phone calls and so many emails, all of which I appreciate very much. I'm not complaining about that, about this application. And almost to a person, their comment has been, we love what's going on down on 23rd Street. We want to keep it going. We want to see more of it. We don't have any objection to the sort of the idea of this use being developed along there, but it needs parking. It needs its own parking. We have a policy of not requiring parking for some of the uses that are redeveloping along 23rd Street, but I think, and we may need to revisit that, I think that at the time we adopted that, we were thinking in terms of, the revitalization of these very small retail uses, with a little bit of parking out front and maybe a little bit of parking on the street nearby. But a use like this will draw an enormous, a kind of surge of parking need to an area, at a time when it is at a premium in the evenings and on weekends. And that combined for me with the alcohol use which is problematic, and very much so here. The most recent thing I had heard about the applicant's solution to the parking problem was sort of just an explanation that it's really not a problem because there's all this parking that's available on the street, including in nearby neighborhoods. And that's not much of a solution for me. So I think the other businesses down there have some real concerns about the type of use combined with the fact that it doesn't have its own dedicated parking. The larger redevelopment efforts that are going on down at 23rd are providing parking. And I think that the fact that this one doesn't have any is just fatal. I just don't think it works. They also have a business model, I don't know whether you are aware of this part of it or not, that is allows people 18 years of age to enter and people 21 years of age to drink. And the first time I heard that, I told the guy, you can't do that in Oklahoma. It's crazy, you know. But apparently you can. And they do it like with wristbands. I guess they would put them on the 21-year-olds. And you know, you have this venue where there's no seating, no tables, no food service. People 18 years of age are allowed to enter, and it's just open bar. People can just, you know, take their drinks with them anywhere in the place and mingle around. To me, that would just be an enforcement nightmare, and while that may fall to the Able Commission to do, I just don't think that that's an appropriate mix. Combined with the fact that it doesn't have any dedicated parking, I just simply cannot support this application. I'm sorry that the applicant's not here, but I haven't heard anything from him so far that would change my mind about that. So,
Nick, let's hear from Nick, and then I've got something to add.
Mr. Chairman, Janice is right. This has been continued a number of times. It's been continued 4 times. But not only has it been continued 4 times, we started continuing it back in November. We identified the problem, okay? Like Janice said, parking's a problem. Well, absent somebody building structured parking, that's not going to be solved. So parking is a problem with this. It's going to remain a problem. The venue itself is a problem. I'm not saying we shouldn't have venues like that down, but in this particular location, that's a problem. That's not going to change. We can continue this because the applicant's not here. We can continue it till the cows come home. Those 2 things are not going to be changed or addressed. The old deal about putting lipstick on a pig, it won't fly. This dog won't hunt. And, you know, I'm with Janice. I don't want to continue it. I think we should hear it. I think we should deny it.
Well, I think we're on the same page there. My couple of comments are, one, I did meet with Mr. Miller at one point quite a while back, and first of all told him today would be the day his case would be heard. And but more important in my mind was, and this is kind, how vague he was about what he wanted to do. I mean, he doesn't have a real plan for how he wants to operate. He can't tell us how many days a week the venue would be used. And, you know, then he wanted the alcohol service as sort of an accessory use to the music venue. But then he said maybe we'll have the bar open every night when we're not having music, but he didn't know. And we typically, when we approve any sort of an ABC overlay, we see the interior structure of the site for exactly how it will be laid out, where the alcohol will be served, where the food kitchen is, if there is one, and so forth. And the idea of having a wide open venue with alcohol use anywhere in the venue and a lot of people underage wandering around who may look 15 or 25 creates the kind of a problem that no neighborhood needs. So I'm going to, those of you who are sitting out here, and of course a lot of you have signed up, I think you understand and can count to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. Do you need to comment, or are you going to be satisfied with the outcome? If somebody wants to speak, you can stand up and you can do it. To the microphone and give us your name and address, please.
I'm Mike Dillon, 4720 Harvey Parkway. I'm co-owner of the Uptown, the Tower Theater. I think you voiced our concerns, and I think you see things the way we've seen them, that there's absolutely no place to park. And if you're going to vote the way you're speaking, then I think we can all leave here without any comments.
Frankly, I think there's less we can do about the parking question as much as it concerns everybody because of the way things are zoned along that street and in toward downtown. I mean, the idea of developing an urban environment, as you see downtown and other places, we don't have required parking, so many spaces for so many square feet of entertainment or restaurant or commercial, as we do in suburban areas. That's part of what we encounter when we urbanize an area. And right now, I don't see in the near term any solution that the city can provide, at least, for parking issues as 23rd Street develops. So just as a side comment. So if there's a motion?
I did want to say one other thing. The applicant here is not the owner of this property. And the first time I met with them, and you're right, Nick, really the issues have not changed from the first time I met with them, which was probably back in September, maybe October. And I told him at the time, parking was going to be it, and the alcohol service was going to be close behind it. You're right, he has always been very, let's be kind and call it flexible about his operation and, his business model. And I told him that I thought that would be a problem too. But you'll see that there are a lot of uses listed that would be, permitted at this site. The other thing that we would do typically on a site like this is really narrow it down to what you're going to be doing with the property and, really give us a good feel for that. He's just not in a position to do that because he doesn't own the property. And the owner, very wisely, in my opinion, would probably not wish to preclude other uses for the property based on the success of this particular business model. So, it's really kind of just a catch-22, but that problem makes it even more difficult, I think, to support this.
So, Janice, give us a motion.
I will move to deny the applicant.
And I'll second the motion, but I have something to make sure that it's understood. With this overlay zoning district, this shouldn't be deemed a precedent to establish a number of parking spaces for a given use. It's an urban street zoning, so other businesses can come in that really may not have their designated number of parking spaces. I mean, it's still that. You still deal with that. So this isn't a precedent for that. It is a precedent for what the use is going to be, and it's totally inappropriate, and that's why I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny item 14. Cast your votes, and it's denied. That concludes the public hearing segment of our meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the people who came today and who sat through this hearing. You're lucky it wasn't like the last one that went to 7 p.m., but I do appreciate the time and the energy that you've put into this, and I appreciate all of the phone calls and emails that I've had from people. There's been a lot of interest in this application.
Okay. Planning Commission members, anything?
I do think that two issues that have highlighted by this application are things that we need to put some energy into. One is the issue of parking policy with respect to the urbanization of these areas. On the one hand, yes, that's what urbanization means. On the other hand, I don't think we want to put ourselves in a position where we are on thin ice in terms of relying on that issue as a reason to deny a use that doesn't really fit into that concept. And the other one is the alcohol thing. You know, I talk about this a lot, and I'll do it again. The framework that we have based on, you know, what state law allows municipalities to control and the way we have responded to that with our ABC 1, 2, 3, you know, really the only option that would have been available for this property would have been an ABC 3 overlay. And I think, you know, that would have been crazy for a piece of property this size, this many square feet, no controls, no. But, you know, he didn't have any intention to combine that with any kind of food service, let alone a 51% thing. And as problematic as that is for enforcement, I think, you know, if there are these options available to business owners, this 18 to enter, 21 to drink, you know, I just see that as really problematic, and we don't have any framework to deal with it, and I think that's a problem.
The Institute of Quality Neighborhoods down at OU is going to study, or is studying, the 23rd Street corridor with parking as their primary issue. So there will be some analysis and research done to see how we deal with this. It's an issue along Western between 36th and 50th Street as well. So it's not unique to this particular segment of 23rd Street. So we will be looking at it and getting some research and input, and hopefully maybe there will be some potential solutions that come out of the analysis, just FYI. Planning Department.
Yeah, I'd like to announce that we have our third summer Plan OKC public workshops coming up. We have conducted these at milestone markers in the planning process for the new comprehensive plan. We had public workshops for issue identification, goal setting, and now that we've come through the process and are starting to look at different scenarios for how the city could develop, we're going to have policy workshops next week. So I wanted to let everybody know that these are come-and-go events. They're scheduled in different locations around the city at different times, hoping that we can give as many options as possible so the community can come. Monday, March 3rd, we're going to have a workshop from 11:30 to 1:30 at Leadership Square. Anytime within this range of times you can come and go. At Metro Tech, this is going to be, I don't think I have the time on that one. Tuesday, March 4th, another opportunity at OSU OKC from 4 to 7 p.m. Thursday, March 6th, it's going to be at OCCC from 4 to 7 p.m. Saturday, March 8th, there's two options. One is at the Northwest Library from 9:30 to 11:30, and then at Plaza Mayor, which is from 2 to 5. Wednesday, March 12th, will be at the Greater Oklahoma City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce from 11 to 2. So I hope you all are able to come out and participate and spread the word.
Yeah, I'd suggest planning commissioners attend those, whether you've been on the steering committee or not. It's, you know, it would be a good opportunity for an update.
It's the Spring Lake campus, and actually I am seeing that time is 4 to 7 p.m. on Monday, March 3rd.
Development Services. I have one question. Aubrey, when we look at aerial photographs of the cases now, we're looking at photography done in 2010. And a lot of it's clearly dated. We're not getting current information. Is there any thought about that being updated? The reason I ask is I was approached by a company that does that kind of photography, and they're actually using drones, which apparently are legal in Oklahoma if done in conjunction with the municipality. In other words, you can't fly private drones just anywhere you want in Oklahoma for the fun of it. But they've got the capacity to take large area photographs and then zero down pretty closely so we get pretty accurate on-the-ground pictures, and it's probably less expensive than the old system of flying airplanes around. Is there any way to get more current actual data?
I don't know, but let me check on that.
We do update those from time to time. I'll get with Public Works and ask them where they are on that, and I'd be glad to put a drone in my budget.
Or as Buck says, can we get Google Earth pictures?
Mr. Chairman, how old are these aerial photographs that we're looking at?
2010. Look at your staff reports. They're all 2010.
So lots of stuff could have
They're
happened.
5 years old,
Yeah.
and lots has happened.
Yeah, and it's one of those resources that we need to do our job, as according to the statute.
We use the county photographs.
No, from time to time, the city issues new contract to get new aerial photos. So the most recent ones, I assume, were back in 2010. And I'm not sure how often that contract is done and updated, but we can check on that. And if there's something that maybe we could do behind the scenes with, if a Google map is a more recent version of an aerial, we might be able to substitute those instead of the GIS. We'll look into it.
Google supposedly is pretty current from everything I understand about what they do. They're certainly way ahead of us. Okay. Anything else? Anyone from the public want to address us? If not, motion to adjourn? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you for being here today.
I'm sorry. My name is Melvin. Prior to your adjourning, I just wanted to make a statement because I came in a little late. I had a meeting earlier in reference to the number 15.
We had continued that early in the meeting, at the very beginning of the meeting.
It's continued, and am I able to speak on it now, or it's continued until when?
We'll give you the date in just a second.
It would be April 10th.
April 10th.
It's continued until April the 10th.
Yes.
And
If you tell us something today, April 10th is a long time away from when the applicant will be here to make their case.
I understand. I just wanted to make the one statement while I'm here today, and that is I was concerned about the current status of the applicant not meeting the guidelines or the requirements for a public health facility prior to going forward. And I would think that that's something that the city would be concerned with or have researched it prior to the application.
We were made aware of it in our staff report. So
That'll be addressed next month?
Yes.
Or in April, you said April the 10th?
April 10th.
Okay, and thank you. My name is Melva, and I'm at 5500 Northeast 46th and Sooner. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.